In case you thought you'd heard the last of Star Wars fans being blamed for Disney's mistakes, John Boyega has just added his voice to the mix. Hi y'all, SnarkyJay cosplay here. John Boyega, better known as the actor who played Finn in the doomed Disney Star Wars sequel trilogy, has recently come out in an interview with some very choice words for racist Star Wars fans. Which, for a guy who played a character who had so much potential that was completely destroyed and derailed by Disney and not Star Wars fans, I find this incredibly weird, and it also seems to directly contradict some stuff that he said back in 2020, so let's just jump right into it. In this interview, though, John Boyega acknowledged what a tremendous effect his being in Star Wars had on his career, he had some choice words about being part of the franchise and what happened with his character. He said, "Let me tell ya, Star Wars always had the vibe of being in the most whitest elite space. It's a franchise that's so white that a black person existing in it was something. You can always tell it's something when some Star Wars fans try to say, well, we had Lando Calrissian and had Samuel L. Jackson. It's like telling me how many cookie chips are in the cookie dough. It's like they just scattered that in there, bro." Kind of an interesting perspective because yes, in this conversation, people do typically bring up Lando Calrissian and Mace Windu, even though he didn't call him Mace Windu, he called him by the actor's name. But I mean, at the end of the day, Lando Calrissian and Mace Windu don't get brought up needlessly. Lando Calrissian was arguably just as slick and cool as Han Solo, and he also was the one who basically blew up the Death Star. And Mace Windu was a complete badass in the prequel trilogy, not to mention the fact that they gave him a purple lightsaber just because Sam Jackson wanted one and thought it would be cool, and the fans didn't go out and attack Sam Jackson or bitch about the purple lightsaber. We accepted it like, yeah, that is cool. So I think claiming that the mention of these characters in this debate is somehow wrong is a little messy, but let's continue. He then continued, "Once we lead, once we trailblaze, it's like, oh my god, it's just a bit too much. They're pandering." And look, I don't mean to play revisionist history here. Back when even the sequel trilogy came out, I was not as chronically online as I am now. I used to touch a lot more grass, and by touch a lot more grass, I mean that I played saxophone and did homework. I wasn't on YouTube doing reviews, so I don't know what kind of discourse was on the internet as of that time. But to be completely honest, when it came to Finn, everything I've ever seen was how dirty he got done by Disney. Nothing directly about the character's inclusion or about his race. I personally, I'm not saying it didn't happen, I'm just saying that I personally never witnessed anybody not wanting Finn to star in Star Wars because of his race. Now, I do want to dig a little further into that, but first, I want to point out some comments that John Boyega made along similar lines in 2020 in an interview with GQ, except back then, his anger was not towards Star Wars fans, but was actually pointed in the right direction, at Disney. He said, "What I would say to Disney is do not bring out a black character, market them to be much more important in the franchise than they are, and have them pushed to the side. It's not good." Agreed. They gave all the nuance to Adam Driver, all the nuance to Daisy Ridley. Let's be honest, everybody knows. And I agree wholeheartedly with that. Again, I think Finn was probably the worst treated character in the entire sequel trilogy. And I mean, again, if y'all can prove me wrong and show me that the reason why Disney took such a different direction with Finn was because of fan backlash, I'll admit that I was wrong. But from my personal experience, Disney did not have a plan with the sequel trilogy from the start, and they teased some wonderful things with Finn that they never got into. I'm of the opinion that the only interesting character in The Force Awakens, the only character with any real potential and a story that I was dying to hear be told, was Finn. What a brilliant turn of events to have a stormtrooper rebel against the Empire and have him actually be a human being with a personality, with thoughts. I mean, they've basically been cannon fodder the entire time we've seen them. We make jokes about their bad aim. Finn's character had the potential to really humanize stormtroopers on the big screen in a really big way. And not only that, but we also got teased that he was force sensitive, and we got to see an ex-stormtrooper wield a lightsaber. And had they continued on that path, we probably would have had one of the most interesting, most compelling characters in the history of Star Wars. Had somebody at Disney actually decided to follow that thread and write a good script. Instead, what did we get? They essentially retconned everything they did with Finn by having him spend the next 2 movies just chasing after Rey and Poe, screaming Rey's name, and being completely irrelevant. And last time I checked, that was not the fault of toxic, racist Star Wars fans. That was Disney's fault for then deciding to make Rey No Name Palpatine Skywalker, as I like to call her, the Mary Sue to end all Mary Sues. They gave her all the nuance, as he said in that 2020 interview. I mean, to me, it seems like back in 2020, he had the story exactly right, and he was placing blame exactly where it needed to be. The story with Disney basically goes around in circles, and it also feels incredibly weird to me that Disney likes to write garbage and produce garbage and then put minorities in starring roles so that then when these projects fail, they can inevitably set these people up to be scapegoats and say, well, it's because you're racist. No, it's because you guys don't know how to write. John Boyega deserved better in Star Wars. He deserved better from the Star Wars franchise. Finn deserved a better story. And again, I really think that Stormtrooper turned good guy, force sensitive. I mean, he could have been a f***ing Stormtrooper turned Jedi. They could have really done something unique and interesting, but instead they spent the 2 movies after The Force Awakens trying to convince you that Rey No Name Palpatine Skywalker deserved any relevance at all, that Poe Dameron was f***ing charming, which he's not, that BB-8 would be a good replacement for R2-D2, which he isn't, and that the heroes you loved, like Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, Leia Organa, they were all completely irrelevant and deserved to go out like pansies because this is the new Star Wars. Make way for the good shit. Except they never gave us the good shit. And I find it so depressing and so frustrating when we continuously see stars come out and attack the fans as opposed to attacking the people that deserve the attacking, the big studios. And I get it, right? You're not gonna bite the f***ing hand that feeds you, but it seems to me like John Boyega is pretty open to saying that Disney f***ed up and they know it and that they didn't do a good job with this character. So why change the tune now and attack the fans? Everything that I've seen about Finn is not bitching about the fact that he was a black guy in Star Wars, it's bitching about the fact that Disney f***ed him over. It's amazing to me that he finds the time to attack Star Wars fans for being racist, but doesn't come out and call out Disney for letting the Chinese market shrink him on the posters. It's honestly so depressing and frustrating to hear because I can't imagine feeling that way, but I also feel that Disney and all these major corporations manage to profit off of the misfortune of the minorities that they cast. Because when they can make content and essentially try and make a minority the scapegoat, they're just hoping that the hatred will be redirected somehow and they can try and paint themselves in a good light. Like The Acolyte. The Acolyte did not fail because people weren't ready for a diverse cast. It failed because it was poorly written trash. I mean, we've been over this. This is so consistent across the board when it comes to Star Wars projects. They fail not because of racist, misogynist, homophobic, toxic fans. They fail because Disney serves up trash. And I really wouldn't dream of telling John Boyega how to feel about this, but the fact of the matter is that John Boyega's biggest issue when it came to his role in Star Wars was Disney Star Wars in and of itself. I was so ready to see what they did with Finn. He was so fascinating, such an interesting character, so much potential established in just one movie that they essentially trashed because Disney had no plan from the start and they were so willing to get rid of him to give the limelight to Poe Dameron and Rey No Name Palpatine Skywalker and Kylo Ren, who didn't need a redemption arc but got a really rushed one anyway. That's where that trilogy went. When it could have done something awesome, they chose not to, not the fans. We were waiting for Finn to be f***ing amazing, and it's Disney that took that from us entirely. And that's all from me. I've been SnarkyJay. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. For more SnarkyJay, be sure to check me out on Instagram. And if you'd like to support me, this channel, and my content creation, do check out and consider subscribing to my Patreon for exclusive photo shoot sets and cosplay content. I'll add links to all of those in the description below. And let me know your thoughts on John Boyega's comments about Star Wars fans in the comments below.